I'm grateful that elders teach the youth and children the Weladay language, even now today. However, I encourage more elders to teach our people the language so it could carry on through our generations.
The language is really important for me because I was born. When I was born, I was born into my language. I spoke only my language before I went before I went to residential school. I spoke only my language, really day. I didn't know how to speak English. I didn't even know what is yes or no at all. It was just my language. That was it. Living out on the land with my grandmother and my auntie and my brothers. And today I find, due to residential school, there's a big gap, and there are some young people willing to learn and making the commitment in taking that step in learning to speak their language, learning to speak the language, because the more young people they learn the language, it would, and because our language it has a lot of meaning. It has a meaning. It's different from saying, saying this is what it is in English, and that it seems like there's no connection. The connection when we speak in our language, we have the connection to our own language, the meaning, the true meaning of what it means. Because our language is like, you say it with your whole being, with your whole being of who you are as a Dene person, and that's how it is for us. Like for me, that's how it is, and then the young people learning the language will be really great. Nice to
Foxy?
Well, I only speak English. I don't speak my native tongue, but because of our household, my mother could speak Soto, but my dad couldn't. So my dad was more on the English side. So they never spoke that in their household, and so it was never. The only time conversations were done in Soto was when some of the other ladies would come that could speak the Soto language. So it was absent in our household when we were growing up, and you, when you're younger, you don't think too much about it. But when you get older, like 25 or whatever, you start wondering, why can't I speak this language? And you wish then that you were exposed to it more, so you know your native tongue. Like I hang with people that know Soto or Michif or whatever they call it, and speak it back and forth, and I have to say, what did he say, or what did you say, or whatever. But I would say that any people growing up should be taught their language, like whether it's in school or where, they should be taught their native tongue, so they won't regret it like I do now for not learning.
I'd like to say something about that. The reason why I kept my language, to speak my language, was during the residential school when we were playing outside, and there was a group of us girls together, and we're not right in a building, we're outside, so we'll be talking our language, we'll be speaking our language. And also during the recess time, when we go out for recess, we get together and speak our language. That's how we have kept our language. Then some of the, I know some, majority, I guess, of the residential school, like I went to Brennett Hall in Fort Smith. I went to Joseph Bertel School in Fort Smith, and during the time when, like I mentioned, recess time, can speak my language with the rest of the girls, and then during the hostel when we were going out and playing outside. That's how I managed to keep my language. That's how
Mhm.
Or else if I didn't do that, probably today I wouldn't be able to speak my language. So I am really grateful that I kept my language. And
Yeah.
I know there are some people that I know they understand the language, but the
Right.
words cannot come out because they were they were told not to speak the language because there's you you get punished for that, punished and they can get severe punish.
That's in the
That's why-
residential
yeah,
schools you're
residential
talking
school,
about. I've
yeah,
talked to a lot of
residential, yeah,
people
yeah.
about who've said the same thing, that you could not speak your native tongue at residential schools or you were punished very badly for it.
Yeah. So when like I mentioned, when we were playing outside, that's what kept my language. Or else I wouldn't be able to speak the language, like being in a residential school. Like I mentioned, where I was in residential school. So I'm grateful that I can speak my language. But the thing is that I'm learning to write. I'm learning to write, and it's not easy. There's so much detail and the pronunciation. Before we came here, I was telling Mary, how do we say this word and that? Like I have to turn to her, and when the both of us were trying to figure out, then we found out it means to sew.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
didn't speak the language because I was raised in Tutsake, which is Chippewa language. So I have the ear for that. But I was born in Yellowknife, and it's the Willowday is my language, it's supposed to be. So I started taking classes, trying to, but I'm having a hard time because the Chippewa language keeps coming in my head and trying to revert it. We didn't have that many Dene language instructors, and if we did, it was very limited. So I started taking the Willowday language, and my main thing is the written language, because I'm a visual person. If I can see it the way it's, then I can probably get away with knowing what the word is, and that's where we came across this morning. And like I said, I can understand, I can say a few words, but I still don't feel confident in speaking it. It's anyway, it took me almost a year to learn the first part of our Lord's Prayer in the language. And then when I took the language in the classes for last year, I learned the other half. So if I concentrate, I can say the Lord's Prayer fully. What it means, sometimes there's no one that can really explain the translation of it. So that's where I'm having a hard time, but I think I'm doing the honor of honoring our elders that know the Lord's Prayer, and they say that, so that's why I'm learning it. And
I'm glad,
With
I'm
Mary
glad,
and I,
yeah.
we when we we help each other trying to figure out how do we say this or else how do like I can speak it and I can speak my language, but to write, like if it's in front of me, I'm trying to figure out what does this mean, and so to ask
we're
Mary.
helpful to each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah, we're helpful to
really
each other.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up speaking my language. So I didn't know English till I went into kindergarten. Yeah, that's how I grew up. Kind of like Mary and Lee.
Yeah, and you had to go to school to learn English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know any English either. Yeah. The first English word I think, if I could remember now, is was the word how.
How?
Yeah,
Oh,
I didn't know what it
how.
was, but I said it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what how was.
Yeah, I didn't know it.
So, and then it was taught to me what it meant. Like, how do you do this? How come this is like this?
Yeah.
Or, hey, yeah, well, that was my first English word, was how. I've been teaching my language since I was 17 years old to kids younger than me, and adults old as Foxy. and everyone in between. I teach in my school from kindergarten to grade 9, and then I've been teaching with other groups like Nunat Seawut, working for the Makobik Inuit Community Government. I've worked with Trent University. I've worked with, right now I'm working with NFB on 2 films. We finished one over the winter there, and when I go back here now I have to finish the other part, so I'm kind of busy. So it's really fun learning all different languages as well. I love languages, all kinds.
Or any other Dene language, I like to say that we don't have a word for a lot of modern day words like TV. So the way we go about that is we have to describe the item, and that's difficult too, like new things. We don't know how to say, we don't have a word to say hello. We don't have a word to say goodbye, or things like that. And we always get asked by other groups, how do you say hello? Just, I always tell them, just, like you meet somebody, you just nod your head, acknowledge him. To me, that's hello. So just want to bring that up. A lot of them is just describing the word, describing the action, because we don't have any other words for it.
Ali, you had something you wanted to add before we went to the words of wisdom?
There's resources in the community, like there's the school, in our community was Riyakiko, but it's taken over by the YKDFN Culture and Language and History department. And then the children, I noticed that young children, like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, and when I see them, I would say things my language, and I say, can you say it after me? Like, something. I say it once and that's it. And they would pronounce just exactly the way I would say it. And I thought, because their ear is really sharp and they're at that stage they want to learn. And I thought, oh wow, at that age they can learn the language really fast if they're taught at really young age, even in the daycare, in the primary school, kindergarten, and that, So
Okay.
that, yeah, there's lots of hope there.
Yes, there is lots of hope.
Our elders are our wisdom holders and storytellers. They hold our culture in their hearts and pass along our traditions from generation to generation. It is important as youth to always listen, respect, and learn from our elders.